Hey everybody, I'm Dylan, for those of you that don't know. Also go by Outhouse Cartoons on YouTube and all of the places. And I'm also the creator of Combat Fairies, a graphic novel trilogy, a urban fantasy action adventure movie with a punk aesthetic, sassy sense of humor, and lots of bloody action and stuff. Volume 3 is going live on Kickstarter July 30th. You can catch the link in the description. And I'm going to show you how to draw one of the fairies today. We're going to draw Aela, the leader of our team. And here we go. So we're starting with our regular anatomy. Won't look like too much of anything just yet. Start with the sphere. We always do that sphere. So adjust it a little bit, probably as we go. Aela's got the broader cheeks compared to her teammates here. I decided to have her head tilted down. I'm making this pose up as we go. We'll see what we end up with. We do our kind of spine line of action. Generally try to avoid having any straight line spine unless it's a really rigid, kind of uptight character. Our rib cage. Our shoulder line's going that way, so we're going to do the opposite for the hips. And we want nice round features, so we're going with a oval ribcage, which is pretty standard no matter who you're drawing, but we're also doing an oval for the hips. Try to avoid having straight lines anywhere really on a character like this. She's flying, of course, so we're going to have her knee up. So we're only going to really try to draw her upper leg with a bit of her foot coming up behind. So we know the whole leg is there. Pull her clavicle out. We'll build her shoulder out on top of that. It's kind of where the pec line would hypothetically be if we were going to define it. We're only using it to figure out where stuff goes in this case. Sometimes you might notice that I make the forearms of my character just slightly beefier than the upper arms. I think I picked that up from Popeye as a kid. Find the rest of her chest, and we'll get this other shoulder. Part of her arm's going to be hidden here, but we're not going to hide it completely. There we go. So we have our anatomy more or less sketched in. Reference can be your friend here, of course. In some of the other videos, maybe I'll talk anatomy a little bit more. Okay, now we're gonna run the eyes. So we have, I tend to oversize the eyes a little bit on my characters anyway, but I especially make an effort to with the fairies. Seems appropriate for just the types of characters they are. And if we get that eyelid coming down a bit, to at the very least graze, if not partially cover the iris and the pupil, it usually adds a lot of that attitude that we would want out of our combat fairies. Nose. Subtle nose. I might need to bring this cheek out a tiny bit more. Give her a smirk. Alright. Now, Aela's ears. All the fairies have slightly different ears. Aela's are probably the most like Yoda's ears, where they stick out the most. Try not to turn my page too much for the sake of this tutorial. But sometimes you gotta. I got the big swoopy hoop earrings here as well. And that's what we're just seeing part of it poking out. We'll throw the hairline on there. We'll do it. We'll start it with like almost like a swimmer's cap, and then we'll pull the bangs off of that. Stringy bangs are something that I tend to add on to my characters a fair bit. I just think it looks kind of cool. But Aela takes that to an extreme. Lots of bangs on Aela. Okay, now probably the biggest pain in the ass of drawing Aela ever is her bullet straps. But we're just gonna have to bite the bullet and do it. So we're gonna start by scooping this around, kind of like that. And we won't worry about individualizing the bullets yet, but we're gonna add a little bit of girth to it. So we got a thick edge. So think of it first like it's like a really thick belt, basically. Normally on a strap, I think of it like a satchel or something like that. We would almost treat it like it's paper thin. So we'd only have that edge and that edge. But now we're at that double edge, so that it looks a little bit thicker. And then now do the same thing here. Like that. So now we have that, we can kind of throw in circles, which will define our bullets. And considering they're really just cylinders, I guess they're more like shells. Almost like shotgun shells. Now when I'm drawing the comics, I've drawn these characters so much, I actually will typically skip this step more times than not when I'm penciling. And I'll just wing it while I'm inking. But we're trying to learn here, so we're going to take it slow. We're going to go through all of it. I probably will skip the strap part though. We'll do that part when I later. Okay, so she's got double bracelets on each wrist. So we'll go ahead and do that. If you're ever struggling to draw these really smooth curved things, my biggest thing is to try to just draw them really loose and fast. And then just keep going over them until they look right. I think everyone wants to draw a clean line right off the bat, and it almost never works. So you're kind of setting yourself up for failure if you're trying to do that. Okay, before we do that, let's do her belt. So she's got this really thick belt. Extra bit of the belt here. She's got the belly button ring. What would a fairy be without their belly button ring? And then now another set of bracelets on this wrist. Thumb poking out. Thumbs, in this case, are the finger hands rather. Usually trim is just a cube, and then we'll differentiate the fingers afterwards. Now in this hand, we can actually see her rings a little bit, and I never committed the rings on any of the fairies to memory. There's just too many of them. So I have a little cheat sheet that I keep in the drawing table. And that hand, she's only got one that we would see at that angle, and that's on her forefinger. Okay, let's throw in her loincloth now. Sometimes the loincloth is a lot longer than other times. And it really just depends. It's something you can get away with in comics. Sometimes continuity is a little less important than the rule of cool in comics. There we go. So let's throw in her thigh holster here. And little clips on them. And the holster itself. And the foot. there's one foot. We're gonna come down for the next one. She's got an anklet on this leg. This ankle. Again, go fast and loose to get those round shapes. Go. Now for her wings. So Aela's got, she's the only one of her team that's got these wings that look like they're made out of leaves, which is because they are. She has regular kind of insect-looking fairy wings in the first volume of the trilogy. If you want to see why she no longer has them like that, you'll have to read it. The look of these wings, somewhat inspired by an artist named Amy Brown. I think it's Amy. It does a lot of fairy artwork, or fairy-inspired artwork, I guess. Fantastical, whimsical stuff. And she would do these kind of dried leaf-looking wings a lot. So once I had a reason to change the look of Aela's wings, it seemed like a good reference. All 3 volumes of the Combat Fairies trilogy, by the way, are available on the Kickstarter. So if you're only hearing about them now for the first time, which is fairly likely, they're far from famous. I think I made that wing a little bit long. We're going to fix that. Then check out the Kickstarter. The link in the description. You can get all 3 of them, both digitally or physically. I myself like physical, but not everybody. Okay, and lastly, we're just going to throw in her hair. I purposely saved this because it's got to kind of go in behind the wings. I started drawing Aela's hair a lot bigger when she got these wings, just so that it could feel really prominent, you know. And there we go. All right, now we're gonna ink it. And when I'm inking, this is kind of more of a personal preference. You don't need to do this necessarily, but when I'm inking, I always like to start with whatever is in front and work my way back. So that's why I'm doing the bangs before I do anything else. Part of that is purely just preference. Part of it is also I feel like I'm making like her eyes or something underneath first. Because when I pencil, everything overlaps. So if I do something that's supposed to be partially hidden first, I might accidentally make something that isn't supposed to be invisible. And then I'm kind of screwed. So I just have to protect myself from mistakes like that. Now with the bangs down. Eyebrows. Now the upper lip, usually because the way it slants forward, so usually it appears a little bit darker because the light isn't really getting in underneath it. So sometimes if a character's got like darker lipstick or something, or in the case of the fairies, they just have naturally different colored lips. If that different color happens to be on the darker side, which Aela's is, you can sometimes get away with just filling that top lip in with just black, which is what I did there. We'll make the bottom edge of her jawline just slightly thicker. Apply a little bit of shadow underneath. I did a little extra tick on her earring to imply a little bit of sheen. It's kind of like a non-specific reflection. It's catching something, it's reflecting something. But we don't quite know what. Alright, and then we're going to do the inner part of her ear there. Include some darker, thicker areas, apply some shadow inside. And then her other ear. Again, those Yoda-like ears. It's always a little annoying to try to ink in behind the strands of bangs, but I think we're doing all right. Okay, we got our neck. This is a skinnier than usual neck, which is again one of my style things. I tend to do little cartoony necks on my characters. And here we go, all those circles that we penciled in before. Ink each one of them. There's no trick here. We just gotta do it. Okay. Now when I'm doing the actual like body of the cylinders of the bullets, I usually start with the middle one and then go out. And on the bottom half I'll make the top part slightly thicker, kind of imply the one above it is casting a little bit of a shadow. And the one above that center point, I'm doing the opposite, which is still to imply that the overlapping one is casting the shadow. There we go. Now we need the little bands that are holding them together. In this case, I'm starting in the middle again, but I'm doing it more just to kind of get my bearings about how I want to curve it, because the ones in the ends tend to be a bit more obscure. And I find it sometimes a little easier to mess them up if I start there. And that might just be a me thing. In the comic, sometimes these straps are just pure black, like what I'm doing right now. Other times, I just do some hatching on them, and when I color it, I kind of make them like a dark gray. the thinking is that they are dark gray, but when they're this small on the page, we're just not seeing it close enough to be able to tell. So there we go. You should got one strap done. And now we'll do one more. By one more, I mean one more belt. Of course, it's still several bullets to go. Now these other ones, we're going to kind of tuck in behind her shoulder. So I'm going to finish that shoulder line first. So while they're wrapping around in behind her. And then here, let's do this one first. When you fill an area in with a solid black, they call it a spot black. I like using spot blacks, sometimes more than others depending on the character. We'll see a little bit of it on Aela. The fairies in general don't have as much as some characters that I might do, just because they're a little bit brighter, kind of as a rule. Right, clavicle line in there, a little bit more of her breast there, kind of some armpit, and her arm. Back of her torso, which means we can finish this part of the bullet belt as well. And then over here, if I'm being totally honest, the way these are curving around maybe doesn't make 100% physical sense, but it looks okay, so we're gonna go with it. And we need to add little straps on the bullets as well. Okay, let's finish her arm. So I'm going to make this part of her arm, the line work on it just slightly thicker. Apply it to a slightly more shadowed area, a little bit darker. And then we do it again in this part of her forearm. Like that, and we're going to throw some bracelets in there. There we go. Her arm's done. Now for her belt. So kind of like I did with her bracelets, I'm going to add little non-specific glints. On the gold pieces. I'm also going to add, well actually that's not true, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do some spot black, so I'm not going to do any shadowing in there. Her belt is going to be almost entirely a spot black. We'll do a little bit of glare on it, but then so there's her belt buckle. Some little glints in there. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then we'll do the loose part of her belt. Just got 3 holes on it. And here we're going to do a little bit of a glare with that, which is also going to serve as a means of differentiating this from that, because once it's all filled in with black, it'll be a lot harder to see. And we'll do it again here. I'm adding little X's where I intend to fill in with black. You don't necessarily need to do that. It's kind of an old school comic book thing, a little note to the inkers. I always thought that was kind of neat, so I like doing it, but not everyone would deem it necessary. And for the name of contrast, I don't want it in the inner belt to be spot black as well, so I'm just doing some hatch lines there. There we go. I'll add a little bit of, imply a little bit of shadow being cast by these bullets, by the way. It's by adding little dark spots, kind of in between the divots of each circle, being cast on her skin. If you're interested, oh, you know what? We forgot her butt flap. That loincloth can't just be in the front, or she's going to be getting real cold, so we're going to throw in another one there. There we go. Can't forget the back flap. If anybody's interested in drawing, learning how to draw more or better, or work on poses, whatever it might be, I'm going to be offering one-on-one drawing lessons through the Kickstarter for Volume 3. Once again, that goes live on July 30th, so if you're watching it before that, then hit the link in the description so you get a notice when it goes live. And if you're watching after that, hopefully the campaign is still running, and hit the link in the description so you can see what cool stuff there is. Like I said, one-on-one drawing lessons. You can sign up for more than one if you want to. I'll walk you through creating a character, or drawing a character. It can be any character you want. It can be an existing character. It can be fan art if you want to. And if you want to do a second lesson, I can show you how to color it digitally using Photoshop. So keep an eye out if that's something you're into. Now, the loincloth has camouflage on it, and when I'm drawing it for the comic, I actually leave the camouflage out of it, and I add that just digitally so it doesn't have all the black outlines. But for the sake of this tutorial, we'll draw it right in there. And I usually just alternate these blotches. Kind of like that. Throw in a little bit more hatching. Like so. Could go a bit more wild with it if we wanted to with the hatching, but probably doesn't need that. Let's do her other arm here. One finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and a 4th finger with a ring on it. And a little bit of the thumb poking out. Measure lines for the knuckles. When you're inking the round stuff, that's when you gotta take your time and not go too fast. But if your pencil lines are nice and round, it gives you enough of a blueprint. That's a little bit easier. Go. She's got 2 arms now. That's an important part of the anatomy, typically. No offense to anyone who's missing an arm, of course. But if the person has 2, we should probably draw 2. Okay, so just drew the little clip things on her leg straps. Again, making that bottom line a little bit thicker. I'm going to imply some light direction. If it was super, super dramatic, maybe we'd go a little further with it, but we're just trying to get the implication of it. Go. We'll do some spot blacks on the straps, but not exclusively. Like that. Bit of hatching on the gun belt. Also, maybe fill that with a spot black inside the holster. Belt casting a little bit of a shadow, and we'll do the other foot. Hands and feet trip a lot of people up. I'm not really elaborating on the approach too much here, just because I'm trying to keep these videos reasonably short. If you do sign up for one of those tutorials, of course, we'll take as much time as we need to on things like that. But if it's of interest to anybody to see that stuff explained a little bit more, I also don't mind making other videos either, so don't be afraid to speak up in the chat if that is the case. Bump there and imply the knee. Darken a few spots here. This loincloth will be casting at least a little bit of a shadow on that leg, probably. Just realized these bracelets should be that one too. Be a lot more specific with where you put your thick and thin sometimes, depending on what you're going for. But I like to use it to at least suggest that light direction. So let's do the back loincloth now. These very hatch heavy areas, like big broad areas where you're doing this kind of uniform hatch approach. Oops. Sometimes those can be the most monotonous because if you go too fast, you tend to fuck it up. And if you go too slow, it drives you a little crazy. Sometimes you can let it be a little sloppy, almost kind of embrace that, and I have definitely done that before. Sometimes more intentionally than others. I figure as this is getting further away from her body and the other loincloth, it's probably getting a little bit lighter. So I pull back on the hatching a bit. Okay, reset for wings and her hair. We're almost done with Aela here, guys. So we got the stem first. And yeah, a little bit of thickness to the edges there. Implies a little bit more weight. Notice on the loincloth I didn't do the darker, thicker edge at any point because that's just fabric. It wouldn't be super thick, right? And now for these hatch lines, I'm curving them kind of this way. It implies the curve of the shape. And sometimes I purposely go a little haphazard. It's supposed to be like essentially wood, right? So it's organic. It's not super uniform. I'm also throwing in the occasional extra little kind of divot out of the wings here. Make them look kind of rough. There we go. And she's also got like some holes in her wings here and there, so I'm going to throw a few of those in there too. Like that. And we're gonna throw some of these leafy kind of vein lines out here. And we'll do a little bit of hatching in between too. Go. There's one wing done. And we'll do another one. Again, do a thicker edge. Do our hatching. Go, little holes here and there. Again, we'll do this a little bit more slowly if we were to do a one-on-one thing. So if you're looking at that on the Kickstarter and you're feeling like, oh, I don't know if I can keep up with that, don't worry. That's the whole point. We'll take it nice and slow. We'll walk our way through every step. There we go. 2 wings down. Sorry if that was suddenly a little on the loud side. Maybe some people are watching this for ASMR. Maybe I just ruined that for you. I apologize if that is the case. ASMR fans are welcome. Oh, gotta give the holes, the wing holes. I would say this is for aerodynamics, but I think it's actually just that her wings kind of suck. She makes them work, but they're not necessarily ideal. She's just kind of working with what she's got, you know. That's part of what makes Aela a badass. Part of why we like her. Or at least I hope. I hope we like her. I like her. Hope that counts for something. Almost there. Almost there. When I record videos like this, and I talk to myself so easily, I realize what a smooth transition insanity might actually be, if it ever comes to that. I'm already well practiced at talking to myself. So. Wing holes again. Gotta have the wing holes. And a little bit of hatching. Alright, and just the hair now. Aela's actually got stripes in her hair, which gets missed a lot, I find, when I see other people take a shot at drawing. I think the black stripes in her hair get mistaken for a highlight sometimes, but they're not actually supposed to be stripes in her hair. And we're going to add that in a second, but let's do the spot black first. So I usually use Sharpie to do my my spot blacks. Some prefer not to. I mean, they do bleed a little bit, so you gotta be careful of that. I think I've kind of gotten used to it enough that it's not a big deal. But you should be mindful of that. And I've also heard some say that the ink from markers doesn't hold up as long as like when you're applying it with a brush or something. And that might be true. And if it is, that's unfortunate. But when you're doing things independently, kind of on a budget, take that into consideration. Also the time as well. You gotta get things done. So when you can achieve something that looks just as good, it's a more easily accessible tool. I'm really in favor of going that route. There's drawing utensils or computer software, whatever it might be. Gotta use what you got access to. Alright, here's our belt done. We do this part. All starts to look a lot cooler once all the spot blacks are in place. Now, all of her areas, spot black areas, at least in this drawing, because the size of it and everything are fairly small, so I'm kind of just filling it all in with this Sharpie fine liner, but often I would just go around the outlines with this. And then I would go in with a thicker Sharpie. Okay, we gotta do the stripes in her hair, and then she's done. There we go. So now, sometimes I'll do this with a marker like I'm doing right now. The stripes, I mean. Sometimes I'll do it with the brush. And I like the look of the brush more because you get that more feathered kind of ragged edge. The only problem with the brush is getting around all these little details, like her earrings and her hair, her ears. That is sometimes easier said than done. So I thought for this tutorial, using a slightly simpler implement might be for the best. But if you want to try it with a brush, go for it. There we go. Alright, there is Aela. All finished. We're going to throw a signature on there, and we're going to call it quits. But only for right now. I'll be back to do the other fairies, Honora, Brietta, Kiani, and Cinia. So come on back for those. Check out the Kickstarter. The link is in the description. You can get just Volume 3, or you can get all 3. You can get the whole trilogy, either digitally or in print. They're all thick, full-length graphic novels, so it's a good read. Not necessarily super long either. They're fun, fairly quick reads, I think, all things considered. And there's lots of other cool stuff on there as well. There's art prints. You can get original art as well. You can get commissions, and you can even sign up to get some one-on-one drawing lessons with me. We'll do them online over Zoom. I'll draw digitally so you can more easily see what I'm doing. I can zoom in and all that kind of stuff. And but you can draw on whatever you want. So check out that link in the description, guys. And if you can't back it, I would appreciate some likes and some shares and things like that. It boosts the algorithm and helps other people discover it. So that would help me out a lot, and I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you next time.